Hi guys, this is Campie, and in this video I'm going to show you how to beat map 2-4. I'm going to be using Sweet with the rocket launcher and battle rifle. The landing tower and mind control tower are the primary two towers that are going to do the bulk of the work. Corpse explosion and explosion radius and Parathian tactics will work very well for this level. At the beginning of the stage, right after you cross the bridge, and before the first wave starts, a patriarch will come out and attack you. As long as you're relatively close, he will follow and attack you. If you're too far away, he'll probably attack the core. With Sweet, beating him is pretty easy because all you have to do is just rocket jump backwards if he's close to you. And if he runs towards the core, just runs towards him and shoot him in the back. This level actually took me a while to kind of figure out how to build a maze. If you check out the spawn point, the entrance is humongous. You will have very little luck if you try to close up the entrance and narrow it down and make a maze there. I find the best way to build a maze in this level is to start by the exit. Let the enemies go all the way to the exit and just build a maze over there first. So this maze will be pretty much a zigzag, very narrow zigzag maze. For this level, I'm going to be building a lot of level 1 lightning towers. In my opinion, the lightning towers are general purpose shotgun tower type. They do decent damage against everything, and they're relatively good against everything. It's granted that half the time when they attack hoverers, they'll do no damage because they'll hit the front of the hoverers, but they're still the most dependable tower to me because they're able to kill, if you have enough of them, they're able to kill any enemy, regardless of the speed of the enemy or the armor of the enemy. So make sure you run up to the perch where I just went to. Whenever you're using Sweet, you definitely want to find a high perch where it can shoot down and just target the biggest groups of enemies. And when you're up here, the enemies won't attack you, so it's great. There are some times you want to jump down. Like for example, I'll let the enemies try to hit me, so this way it will spare my core some damage. And it can also kite the warrior, but actually I went too far. So now he's attacking the core, ignoring me now. Now I continue building my maze. Note that I had to build an outer wall. You can actually save blocks if you build the corners rounded. It looks more sloppy, but it's also doable. And I will need to upgrade my mind control towers to level 2 for the mind control tactic to work properly. The mind control towers are great because they'll help group up the enemies, at least the ones that can be aggroed. Sweet. And the damaged radius perk helps a lot because her rocket launcher has a pretty big radius. The battle rifle radius is pretty small, but if you have the explosion radius perk, the explosions are up to 100% larger. And since there's so much enemies and they're kind of sparsed out, you would highly benefit if you just get it. Most of the killing will be done by you, so if you can maximize your damage, you know, whatever you have to do, just get it. So in the beginning, I will round up my maze a little bit. So it looks kind of weird, but it still works. In the next wave, there's going to be soakers and hovers. Typically, explosive weapons aren't good against soakers, but since I'm using Autumn, it's still okay against soakers because Autumn actually does a dot, and Autumn's dots are great against soakers. Explosive weapons coupled with explosion radius increase are pretty good against hovers. If you just shoot behind a hover, the explosion will hit the hover in the back, killing it. I would shoot the soaker a couple of times just to get a dot on it to pre-weaken it. But yeah, soakers take a lot longer to kill than hovers. My towers could kill the hovers, there's a possible chance, but they won't be able to kill the soaker by themselves. Mind control towers are pretty good against hovers and soakers. When they're mind controlled, they just stand there, so you can just do pot shots on them while they're just standing there, making it much easier to kill them. But they have to be at least level 2 mind control towers before they're actually that useful. Level 1 mind control towers doesn't last for very long and doesn't seem that good. So for every 2 lightning towers, I'm going to build 1 mind control tower. Or more or less that's how I'm going to start off. And then before I start the wave, I'll just run back up to my perch. You can actually shoot marines out of the way if they're blocking your way. And I can just shoot into the starting point, dealing massive damage to all the enemies inside that I can't see yet. But I know I'm killing them because I can see crazy numbers popping up. My explosion radius, corpse explosion is just destroying them. You should keep an eye on the minimap so you can tell where enemies are spawning, if enemies are running to your maze. But I'm confident that my maze will be able to kill the ones that make it past me. And I'm just focusing on a core enemies that spawn. I'm just killing as many as I can before they even reach my maze. If you're playing with a co-op group, generally you should stick Autumn pretty close to the kill zone or the beginning of the maze, somewhere where there's a sniper perch, and just have her kill the majority of enemies, especially little enemies, and then you have a cleanup crew kind of killing all the tougher enemies or enemies that slip past her. In this wave there's a lot of brood mothers, and they're really fast, and they have more health than runners. They can be very tough if you don't have explosive weapons or slow. But since we're using sweep from a perch up high, it's not too bad. And lightning towers are pretty good against them too, as long as you don't have too many going to your maze. You want to focus on a soaker, and by doing so, you'll be able to kill a soaker and any enemies that try to walk past a soaker. When you kill the little enemies that are kind of beside the soaker, the corpse explosion will cause the little enemy's explosion or death to cause damage to the soaker as well. Anti-air towers are extremely powerful against air, especially when they're level 3. But you need at least level 2 to do some damage to them. And I'm just going to shoot into the spawn point. Since I do decent damage, I can actually kill the armored heavy without having to shoot it in the rear end. As long as you do more damage than it has armor, you'll be able to kill it, at least slowly. The lightning towers will also kill armor heavy. But it may not be as good as focus, but at least it still can do the trick. Right now I'm just going to focus on the armored heavy. Actually right now it's the only enemy left. If you use secondary fire for the rocket launcher, it does slightly more damage. But if the enemy is really far away, it's kind of hard to lock onto them when they're moving around. Okay, we have some boggleheads. And we really need to focus on killing the boggleheads. With our setup and our choice of weapons, it's actually very difficult for us to kill boggleheads. And in order to kill the boggleheads, it will rely 100% on player skill at this moment. And I advise to just go down to where they are, just blast them. If I stay up here, there's no way I can kill the boggleheads, because I have to hit the boggleheads right on the tip of their head. If I wanted to stay up here and kill the boggleheads, I would either need a drone gun, which is the easiest method, or a sniper rifle. If you're a decent shot with a sniper rifle, you can just kill them pretty easily from up here. But using explosive weapons is really difficult to kill them because the velocity, the speed at which the rockets travel is pretty slow, and the fire rate is pretty bad as well. But at least the battle rifle, you know, I can kill them with it. The rocket launcher, it's very difficult. And once the enemy is hitting the core, like the bobblehead, it's super difficult to kill a bobblehead when it's hitting your core. So right now I'm just down to 1 or 2 bobbleheads. The mind control tower definitely helps against bobblehead. It just makes them standing still. So in this next wave, there's going to be a super heavy and walkers. If you have a teammate with a drone gun, it would be pretty easy to kill it. But even though it might take a while, it's still very possible for me to kill the super heavy with lightning towers and my sweet setup. But towers alone or suite alone, I probably wouldn't be able to kill the super heavy before it gets to the core. So right now I'm just going to focus on weakening the super heavy as much as possible before it gets to my towers. The super heavy's weak spot is kind of behind its knees. But there's no way I'm going to go down there and shoot it behind the knees. If you can, try to blow up the walker looms so that corpse explosion does damage to it. And don't get too close to the super heavy, because if you do, it will shoot at you and anything in its path will get blown up, including towers and walls. The reason why it fired over there was because it saw Marines. But thankfully it didn't destroy my maze or any of my towers. And unfortunately my control tower doesn't seem to work against boss types like super heavies. So I'm just going to aggro the super heavy and a rocket jump backwards. And you definitely don't want to have the super heavy shooting in a direction of your core because it does like crazy damage. Right now it's just kicking the core, but if it shoots that beam, the core is like, it's gonna be like superly heavy damaged. So that wasn't that bad. Oh, actually it did damage part of my base, but I can repair it. So I can use extra blocks and extend my maze further. The way I'm building my maze right now, the enemies will have to kind of pass the mind control towers twice. This will increase the number of small groups that would be formed by the mind control towers. And as you can see small groups of enemies forming around mind-controlled enemies. And a big corpse explosion just went off, killing many of them. If you were to try to kill them down there, it'd be very risky because their shots do a lot of damage, and those suicide creatures, they might blow you up as well.
All done for now. Balloons are on their way. Come on.
Those two mind control towers over there are doing an amazing job at keeping enemies from even coming into the maze. The enemies such as a soaker, they ignore aggro and they'll just run through your maze regardless of mind controlled enemies. But generally it's doing a great job. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video informative. And if you did, please subscribe. And I will see you in the next clip.